I just wanted to share about the recent protests in Sydney, and for those of you who don't know anything about this issue, it's a very serious one that's been going on since 1948 and was working up to it before. The Palestinians have basically been victims now of an ongoing genocide. And sadly, the world doesn't seem to realize that, because mainstream media tend to keep it to themselves. They don't talk about it. There's been hundreds and hundreds of Palestinians killed, gunned down in the street, and their houses set on fire. Their children are shot in the street. I'll leave some links in my information section about it. Chris Hedges has written about it a lot. So he's Alan Pup. He's written about it. And I invite people to look into it, because it's worse than South Africa during the height of the apartheid regime. It's worse than that. So I hope that you'll consider looking into it and supporting the Palestinians, because governments aren't going to support them. And the mainstream media isn't going to help them. So if the mainstream media isn't going to help them, then and the governments aren't going to help them, then what hope have they? What hope have they? I couldn't describe to you the terrible things that have been done to them, and yet they continue on. They're an incredibly resilient group of people. And the children always seem so happy, and yet apparently they've been so traumatized from the constant bombing and the constant threat, not only inside their home but outside their home, from the Israeli Defense Army, the constant bombing. And in 2014 there was 550 children were killed in 2 weeks, just from the bombing and shooting in the street, and people that go to help other people are shot dead. There was recently an IDF soldier who he was actually videotaped. There was a Palestinian man laying on the road who was injured, and he was actually videotaped shooting this man in the head twice. So this is what they have to go through. They're just treated, and I'm going to say this intentionally, like animals. And this is where I bring in my podcasts on vegantrove.com, I bring in how the way we treat non-human animals is the way we will also treat human animals eventually. It never stops at that species. We see it in our own attitudes towards other groups that we start to vilify for our own ends. And the idea of the Israeli apartheid system is to basically end up wiping out the Palestinians, so that the whole of that area, which was once Palestine, all of it, and has been Palestine, even though they like to deny that, has been Palestine for, well, centuries and centuries, probably thousands of years. In fact, they want to wipe out the Palestinians so that they can completely settle, completely resettle what was once Palestine. And you can find that Palestine did exist before this terrible situation, before the Nakba. If you do history, I mean, it's even mentioned in Shakespeare. They talk about Palestine. So we must support the Palestinians. We must support them. They cannot free themselves by themselves because there's so much opposition to it. There's so much propaganda. I mean, you would swear that they're all terrorists and that they use their children for human shields. There's so much propaganda put out about the Palestinians, and we have to counter that. And the way to counter that is to speak out about it wherever we can and whenever we can. It's important that the most vulnerable in our society, it's important that we do our best to elevate the issue and bring justice for them. For example, non-human animals. The way to do that is to be vegan, not to promote happy animal slavery. And the way to support Palestinians is to join the Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions campaign, the BDS campaign, and you can find out about that online. Just put Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions and you can find out how to do that. And also just spreading the word about Palestinians. If you go to YouTube, go to the Empire Files on YouTube, the Empire Files. Abby Martin and Michael Preisner went to Palestine. Abby Martin couldn't manage to get into Gaza. They wouldn't let her. I think they realized she is a journalist and what she does, which is highlight the terrible conditions of Palestinians. But they've done 2 or 3 programs now, the Empire Files, on Palestine and the terrible oppression there by the Israeli government. So I invite you to please check that out. Check out Chris Hedges' essays about Israel. Chris Hedges, a Pulitzer Prize recipient. And I'll leave some other links in the information section. So that's what we can do. I talk about Palestine often because they desperately need us to educate others about Palestine and what's happening. So I thank you for listening. I've set up this channel, just a brief word about this channel. Vegan Trove is a podcast that I do at vegantrove.com, and it's an abolitionist vegan podcast. I do that to abolitionists as an extension of a logical extension of justice, include humans, of course, in our advocacy. And so as well as talking about the main issue for me, which is non-human animals and their very basic right not to be used as resources, and that means going vegan, I also talk about other issues, and one of the issues I talk about is Palestine, because of the reasons I've mentioned, because of the ongoing genocide there. So I invite you can subscribe to vegantrove.com for the podcasts that I do, and I do them probably between once every 2 weeks, sometimes more frequent, sometimes less frequent, depending on what's going on in my life. And I decided to do a vlog because there are issues that just turn up each day or each week, and I might want to do a little rave about them, but I don't want to, and that's why I'm doing these little vlogs to add to. It's like an extra, like a vegan trove extra, if you will. So anyway, it was so great to see so many people from Sydney out and protesting against this dreadful, dreadful situation that the Palestinians have to go through. And the way we can end it is how apartheid was ended in South Africa, and that is through boycotts and divestment and sanctions, and by spreading the word about it. It's not okay that it's happening. It's not okay at all, and we should all be speaking out about it, every single one of us. That's the only way it's going to end. So it's just about us. The sun is going down. I might just show you the view again. I've done this. This is the second vlog I've done today. So thanks very much for listening. Join me again, and also subscribe to